Hey everyone, it's 2020, and it seemed like a good time to build a new workstation using one of the newer AMD 3000 series chips, as 12 cores and 24 threads should really help speed up our rendering times. For this complete systems build, we will start by looking at the parts we'll be using. Next we'll put some parts on the motherboard, then we'll put the board in the case and start plugging stuff in. We will boot the system and install Windows, and we'll end with some quick cable management and then close everything up. Welcome to Bite Size Tech. I'll be pairing the R9 3900X with its Wraith Prism cooler and the Republic of Gamers Strix x570 motherboard. Our RAM is 32 gigs of DDR4 3600. We have a 500GB Crucial P1 M2 SSD drive and an Asus GTX 1070 Dual OC graphics card, a PCIe Wi-Fi card, and a Corsair RM650X power supply. Before handling any sensitive electronics, we recommend grounding yourself by touching a large metal object to avoid any static discharge. We'll be putting a couple of the key components on the motherboard first, as working in the case can be a bit awkward. We'll start by dropping in the RAM. We've just got to make sure to line up the off-center notch. As we're only using 2 of the 4 slots, the motherboard specified these 2 slots. Our SSD will be mounted under the heatsink here, right next to the board fan. We just have to screw in the mounting bracket to support it, and then cover it with the heatsink and put the cover back on. Next, we'll be dropping in the processor. First, we need to raise the arm, match the arrow in the corner, and gently lower it in. Once in place, all that's left to do is to lower the arm. We will now mount the CPU fan. The thermal paste comes pre-installed, so we'll center the fan over the chip, then we push down and put the plastic mounting bracket hook into the metal bracket on one side of the fan. And we do the same on the other side, and then we flip the clip from the left to the right, which locks it in place. It takes a bit of force, but that's normal for this fan. With this done, we'll plug in the fan's power and the RGB header. For our next step, we'll put the motherboard into the case. Once we get the motherboard mounted into the case, it's time to get stuff plugged in. I've got my power supply screwed in, and we'll start by plugging in the 24-pin connector for the motherboard. Next, we have an 8-pin connector for the CPU at the top of the board. Now we can plug in the connections for the case fan and the buttons in the bottom corner, as well as the cables for USB and the audio jacks on the case. Next, we'll throw in the graphics card, which I held off on so as to make plugging some of the smaller cables in easier. We'll make space for the card by removing the 2 covers. We'll push the card in until the retaining clip locks it in place. And finally, we'll plug it in. This done, we can actually power up the system. And hey, it worked. That's quite a relief. So now we'll be installing Windows 10 from a USB key. And once you've got the system running, we're going to turn it around. We're going to do a little bit of cable management. Got it looking good. Close up the system. And that's it for today. Hope you learned something. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure to comment below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. This has been Bite Size Tech.